Alright, by the way, the funny thing is, you know how people go ahead and talk about green flags and red flags, and it's hard to go ahead and recognize red flags when you're wearing rose colored glasses, that whole thing. It's like, alright, so, you want to know what my actual red flags are? I'm opinionated as fuck, I'm mouthy as fuck, alright? I will go ahead, and I will be the student as fucking possible, and I will learn every and any fucking subject matter, just not even to be a know-it-all. Just literally to go ahead, and when you go to conversate me about it, I want to be able to understand what the fuck we're talking about. You know? I mean, shit. Literally, when people end up going ahead and complaining, why don't you take interest in what I like? Why don't you go ahead and take interest in how I end up, what I end up enjoying and everything? That right there is a fucking side effect of going ahead and taking interest in what you may or may not fucking like. And I'm not going to assume that the next fucking person that I end up encountering is going to like the same fucking thing that you like. You know? Ultimately, too, understand, I have a hard time keeping a straight face in serious situations. Alright? If you fall, I'm going to have a hard time not laughing. Alright? So understand, be horrible in the medical field. Do you know how many doctors and nurses have a fucking morbid sense of humor because they don't have the fucking time to decompress and actually work through the fucking trauma of constantly death, 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 hoping that this person doesn't die. Personally, I'm not allowed to have an opinion if I give a fuck if that person dies or not. But regardless if I don't have an opinion on whether they die or not, I've still gotta fucking treat them anyway. I'm just gonna lollygag about doing it. Well, congratulations. That's considered medical malfeasance. That's considered medical neglect. Alright? By going ahead and trying to continuously push the person, to the back of the line when they're in the middle of a medical emergency. Alright? Henceforth, why for a medical emergency, you call for emergency services. When you need assistance for a medical intervention or a medical crisis that does not qualify or reach the level of an emergency, you call the non-emergency line, so that way that the line for the emergency services for people that are having an emergency does not end up getting clogged up, and constantly fucking blocked up, so that way that, people that are in immediate need, life or death situations, don't fucking die. Because of the factor that for you, you're too busy wanting to be a fucking know-it-all instead of giving a fuck about what the fuck happens to your ward. It's when you reach that level of cynicism in the medical community that you go ahead, you recognize your burnout, you say, hey, I need to sideline myself for a little bit or be put in a position that ultimately, by going ahead and reducing pace, is not going to end up causing a potential life or death situation for the undeserving of that circumstance. That's that point that a lot of people too, because the fucking arrogance and egotists when it comes down to the medical community, they have a hard time because of that fucking God complex of being like, you know what? Yeah, no. I need to step to the side, or I need to bow out, or I need to recognize that I am not emotionally equipped to be able to handle the intensity of this line of work. Not every job is made for everyone. Alright? So, ultimately, don't assume that just because of somebody, laughing away the trauma, that ultimately, that means that everything's okay. Or that it's the way you perceive. Or that, it's being insensitive. No. Sometimes it's coping because of the factor of the traumatic situation is very, very similar resembling to a personal trauma from their past. And they are trying to fight the trauma from their past while simultaneously trying to stay mentally present so that way that there's not an unfortunate outcome for the person that is in immediate danger.